Hey, speaking of the Psalms, I would like to start us off this morning for the sermon time from Psalm 19. The heavens are telling of the glory of God, and the firmament proclaims his handiwork. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night declares knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard. Yet their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. You know, the Apostle Paul, in the first chapter to his letter to the Romans chapter 1, says that all creation tells of the glory of God. And this idea just has been really striking me lately that, just a tree, by being a tree, declares of the goodness of God's love, right? It's just like that is a whole life, an existence that we call worship at some level. It is being what you were made to be and what you can be, and that in itself, that's good enough. So this week we've been going through a book called Naked Spirituality, and we're in a series called Naked in the New Year, and our word for the week is here. So some of you may know this, but I really like a part of English speech called homophones. So I'm going to put them up on the screen for you. Here are a couple. They're words that are spelled differently, that sound the same, but mean very different things. So loan and loan. Read and read. Steal and steal. Road and road. New and new. And then our word for the week, here. But also I want to play with here. I want to talk about the challenge of being here. In any given moment, to be fully present to that moment can be really challenging. Now, I'm older than I look by my own estimation. And so it may surprise you to know that I was called to ministry and trained for ministry before there was such a thing as email. I actually remember in 1996 getting my first computer. Before that, I had had to stay up all night typing out on paper, typewriter, my papers that I was going to turn in. And I remember getting email. And in 1996, I only had 3 friends all over the world. I had 3 friends who also had email. And every morning I would be so excited to turn my computer on, which took about 10 minutes to boot up back then. And then I would plug in my phone cord, back when we had something called landlines. I would plug it into the back of my computer and I would log in to see if I had any email. Most days I didn't because, as I said, I only had 3 friends who had email. But when I did get an email, it always made me so happy to be corresponding across the miles with somebody who I had lost touch with. It was one of the best gifts I have ever received. I loved email so much. Fast forward 25 years. I dread email. It has become the bane of my existence if I'm not careful, for one simple reason. I will open up my computer, then all these emails will come up, and I cannot tell you how often I forget why I originally came to the computer. There's something weird, and you may not have the same brain disjointedness that I have at points when it comes to technology, but there is something weird that happens where all of these emails that come in all the time, they take me out of the moment. I've really figured out in the last 5 years that email actually is one of those things that keeps me from being here. Because I'm always somewhere else, somewhen else. And I'm thinking about how am I going to respond to this person? And do I need to unsubscribe from that one? And should I forward this to somebody? And I'm always doing something else, sometime else, someplace else. And if I'm not careful, it keeps me from being here. So I've actually had to develop a new discipline, which is that I write down on a sticky note before I open my computer so that when I get distracted by all of the things popping up, I can remember why I first came here. Zoom is the same way. I remember when we first 2 years ago got on Zoom, it was so nice to just connect at any level at all, to feel somewhat in conversation, to see your beautiful faces, and to feel in some way connected. Fast forward 2 years, people are zoomed out. It feels so limited and one-dimensional, and not really, if we can be honest, here, fully here in the moment. So there's a sorting that's happening. We're trying to figure this out together and what it means to be here, for me to be fully present in my own life here. I'm gonna mourn for a minute. There's a lot to mourn about. I could use 100 examples, but I'm just gonna use a personal one this morning. This thing that I was called, I'm going to say by God, to do, that I was maybe gifted to do and given the grace to do, I barely get to do anymore. I feel like I have been reduced down to being a virtual baseball card. I take up about this much space on a flat screen. I feel like I have been shrunk down and flattened. I don't get to give big bear hugs anymore. I don't get to surprise people with the volume of my voice when I'm trying to make a point. I don't get to walk around the sanctuary and change it up. I don't like this very much, if I can be quite honest. I am shrunken and I am flattened, and I don't even know sometimes what it means to be here. I'm struggling. We're all struggling. But can I tell you something? I love being here. There's no place else I would rather be, because here I see people that I love. We get to do something that we love. I get to hear different perspectives, get to entertain different ideas, get to interact with you, and to practice being people of faith. Here's why this really hits home for me. Worship is a full life response to God's presence and goodness. That's what worship is. When you pass the peace of Christ to one another, that's worship. When Sarah leads us in the prayers of the people and we say, hear our prayers, that's worship. When you greet each other with the peace of Christ, when we hear a common word, when we sing a song, even if we're on mute so that Zoom knows to prioritize the musician, that's worship. When we meet here, we are a worshiping community. It's tough and it's different. Let's just be honest. It's not the same, because I'm here physically. I'm at Vermont Hills and you're not here. But in this dynamic virtual space, we are here. And it's really important that we wrestle with what it means to be here, because this is what we are navigating, not just as a church, but as a community, a neighborhood, as a city, as a country, and as a global community. We are in real time discovering and creating what it means to be here. And there's nowhere else I would rather be. It's tough. Things are changing. Some for the good, some for the bad. We're wrestling with this together, but to have the gift of being here together is a divine, I'm going to say a sacred opportunity. Because the practice of gathering and being and serving, like later today, if somebody comes to your mind who you haven't heard from in a while and you reach out to them, that's worship. Even though our 10:30 gathering is over, your life lived in response to God's goodness is worship. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If a tree, by being a tree, declares the glory of God, you, by being human, good and bad, highs and lows, you worship by being you. The evangelicals and charismatics and the mainliners, with their stained glass and their stoles and their hymns, many of us have made a catastrophic mistake, which is that when we say worship, we mean music. And we've put too much of the emphasis on musical worship to the fact that they have become synonymous for many people. So I say to you this morning, au contraire, mon frère, worship is you being you. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A life lived in response to God's goodness is worship. Music helps us do that, but worship is not limited to music. In this week, we're going to read in this book, Naked Spirituality, we're going to read about this word here. And at the end of this section, Brian McLaren, our author, does something very interesting, which is that he did an exercise that resulted in sort of a song slash poem. And I want to read it to you with this one encouragement. I want to invite you to be here, where you are, here. So let me read this for us. O Lord, who are you? O Lord, who am I? Who are we together? We are glowing fire in a burning bush. We are master and apprentice. We are lover and beloved, giving birth to a better world together. We are artist and work in progress. We are vine and fruitful branches. We are partners in this mission. We are builders of a brighter future. We are wind in swaying treetops. We are mother and her child. We are friends in conversation. We are dancers who move to joyful music. We are wide blue sea and leaping dolphin. We are warm spring sun and growing seeds. We are poet and living poetry. We are singers who are filled with harmony. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Let us commit to doing this here.
I, the Lord of sea and sky, I have heard my people crying, all who dwell in dark and sin, my hand will save. I who made the stars of night, I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send?